Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
What's poppin', my friends?
How's it going?
You might notice that we are better dressed than a hoodie and a t-shirt. Because that's normally what it is, right?
Yeah.
And Rick is back in what is this, a studio? My office?
I'm actually alive.
He survived. Tested negative for COVID, I guess.
Yeah.
He still sounds like he's got a cold all the time.
It's because I have allergies.
Yeah.
Seasonal allergies, which is why it's like hard to know if I'm actually sick or not. Which means I'm going to have to get tested like all the time, which is unfortunate.
That sucks. But anyway, as you notice, we are dressed a lot better for this episode, and that is because, wish I had a sound effect for this, but I don't. So what it is. It is the Fantasy Champions 2020, not 2021, because I've been trying to teach myself to say 2021, 2020 award show. So this show, we are going to hand out awards to specific players and discuss or talk about why they were the place that they were, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's not, we're don't make the assumption that we just picked the number one guy, even though some of these are just the number one guy. But anyway, if you had any of these guys in your team, you had a lot of success this year. So we'll jump right in. Rick, I'll start with the first one.
Sure.
You do the next one, and then we'll just keep bouncing back and forth until
Yeah, we can do that.
So we'll start off with the quarterback of the year. And the quarterback of the year belongs to Josh Allen.
Wish we had a fake trophy.
Wish we had I can grab it.
Oh, there you go.
Grab him, but I'm not going to.
Okay. Pretend we're handing him a
Too
trophy.
much reaching. They'll see my dad bod pop out. This is the suit that I wore when I got married.
Yeah.
And it doesn't fit anymore. Also, totally forgot to do the intro, but I'll do it at the end. It's all right.
Okay.
So anyway, quarterback of the year, Josh Allen. Quite a memorable 2020 campaign for him. We talked about him, I think, earlier last week, or I think later last week on our second episode, as a breakout player of the year. He had 384 fantasy points. He finished the season through 16 weeks as the QB2, but he was I would say he was more consistent than Kyler, because Kyler had
Yes, I agree, yeah.
those really, really great weeks through weeks 1 through 8, 1 through 10, and then all of a sudden just dropped off.
It's kind of like Russell Wilson a little bit.
Yeah, as soon as he had some really great matchups, he was so far ahead of everyone else. But you know what? Fantasy playoffs matter. And Josh Allen pulled up his big boy shorts.
Yeah.
And had some really great games in the playoffs. I wish I had a percentage in front of me, but I would say Josh Allen was on a lot of fantasy championship teams.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And especially where you drafted him, like in the 9th round to be the QB2, there's 16 weeks. And if you did a week 17 championship, the QB1.
Right.
The dude was just a stud, man, all year and exceeded expectations. He was more consistent than I thought. I know you traded him in our home league right before the playoffs because you were nervous about his playoff schedule, and he was still pretty good. Like, I know he torched New England.
Yeah.
And I want to say, what was his other tough matchup?
I think he had 2 games against San Francisco. No, 1 game against San Francisco.
Against San Francisco.
Sorry. I can pull up his schedule right now.
Yeah, so I know at least in the New England game he did good. So that alone was kind of better.
Yeah.
And I think he was just like you said.
End of season schedule from week 13 on was San Francisco, Pittsburgh, Denver, New England, which is all like Denver was a decent matchup. I was okay with the Denver game, but it was just the fantasy championship looking at a play against New England. Like if I had him, I would have benched him. How many points do you have in that game?
Against Denver, he got 36. Okay. And then against New England, he got 32.
Yeah. So and then San Francisco, what did he do? Pittsburgh and San Francisco week 13, 14.
Pittsburgh in 14, he wasn't. That was the one where he wasn't great. He had 18. And then San Francisco, I think he had. Hold on, I just closed it. He had 28.
Yeah, I mean,
so,
it was
3 of the 4. He was very good.
It was that stretch of games that was very, very concerning to me as a fantasy manager. Because if you go back and you look at week 8 against New England, what did he get? 8 points, 7 points. Maybe like 13, 12. I can't remember what it was.
It wasn't great.
It wasn't good. It was like low end QB2, QB3 performance. Yep. Like it was bad. So he wins quarterback of the year. I don't know how I feel about him next year.
Why is that?
No idea.
I like Josh Allen next year, but I'm not going to probably not going to draft
Because he's going to be overdrafted.
Yep.
I would think.
Yep.
But it's funny because Lamar and Mahomes are kind of still like, if you were to do rankings or you to look at the expert consensus for next year, they're probably both still 1 and 2.
No.
Maybe.
I don't think Lamar is. We'll see, but
I won't do it, but I'm just telling you what you might see.
Yeah, I think some people will do that.
I'm gonna see if they have it right now because people are psychopaths and
it's basing up. But even like
this is 2021.
Playoffs.
Oh, this is playoffs.
Yeah,
okay.
divisional
right,
rankings.
Okay,
but it has Lamar third behind Josh Allen and Mahomes. I think next year.
Okay, here we go. I found draft rankings for 2021.
Oh my gosh, people are psychopaths.
So it's Mahomes, Josh Allen, Murray, and Jackson. So
Jackson's 4. So that's actually higher than I thought. I thought he'd be like 5 or 6.
Yeah, I mean Josh Allen's going to end up where Lamar Jackson was getting taken. What was that, the 3rd round? Which is not what I want at all.
Wow, Brady's 10. That feels high for a 44-year-old going to be 44 next year.
Yeah, this is good.
And I was on the Brady train this year. I'm not going to be on
We should do a
next
whole
year.
show breaking down expert consensus.
Just roasting it?
Yeah, not necessarily roasting it, but going through it and talking about some
our
crazy
thoughts
stuff.
on it.
Yeah. So anyway, Josh Allen, he is the QB of the year.
Mm-hmm.
We have a whole, 7-8 months to talk about whether Josh Allen's valuable for 2021, so we'll save it for then. But who is the running back of the year, Rick?
We got Dalvin Cook as our running back of the year. So Dalvin Cook was somebody that I know in our home league, the person who had him was just waiting for him to get injured, so he traded him because of that. And then he didn't get hurt. Although I think he did miss week 16. Or did he miss week 16? He missed week 17, sorry, with a family matter. But he ended up being healthy the whole year. He never had like a major injury. And he was fantastic all year. I remember he was kind of neck and neck with Kamara as the RB1 for a lot of the stretch. And considering you took him probably 6th, 7th overall, because at the time we didn't know about his contract situation as well. I know in some leagues in redraft he fell to the end of the first round because of that. And you got a home run pick with that. Dalvin Cook was consistently putting up monster numbers every week. He had a touchdown a week up until week 10, at least, including a game where he had 3 touchdowns and then 3 games where he had 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So that is ridiculous. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. He finished the year with 16 touchdowns in 16 games, 14 games with 16 touchdowns. Ridiculous season. And then he 17 touchdowns if you include the receiving one as well. And he also put up 1,500 yards too. So he was ridiculous. I think you can make the argument for Derrick Henry as well. Between these two guys, but I'll go with Dalvin Cook. He played in less games, had more points per game throughout the season.
I think too, he's by far and away. I guess him and Kamara. Kamara's a hard one because he had the 55-point game. So on the season, I think that 22.4 point average for him was just weighted. Yep. But Dalvin Cook was for most of the season, probably all of the season, he was the running back one.
Now Dalvin did have a game where he had 45, didn't he? Or 46 or something like that. He had 3 or 4 touchdowns.
But he was averaging 22.6 points a game. And those big games are included in it, but he did not have it was in half PPR. It was 20, 15, 23, 26, 14. He missed a game against Atlanta. Then 46, 37, 11, 20, 6 against Carolina, which I don't understand. Did he get hurt in that game? 18 carries for 61 rushes. I guess everyone has a bad game once in a while.
Oh yeah.
17, 21, and 14 in the playoffs. So,
and that's by standard. That's standard.
Is that standard?
Yeah.
Oh, for real? Okay. Anyway, so he had a lot of very, very good games. I'm pissed off. And the reason why is because in the home league, as Rick mentioned, the guy traded him away for Christian McCaffrey. Mm-hmm. He was trying to trade him, and no one in the league for some reason they weren't offering anything good. And so I came in as the voice of reason, tried to be the voice of reason. And I was like, hey, listen, would you take Kareem Hunt and Jonathan Taylor and a wide receiver, I believe it was Tyler Boyd, off my hands for Dalvin Cook.
Yep.
He was like, yes, but let me see if I can get more. And I was like,
And he got more.
okay. And then I was like, he's not going to find more. So the next day, I saw a trade go through. He didn't even come back to ask me if I wanted to offer more because I had way more and I would have offered more, but
Yep.
I got shafted. So anyway, that probably would have won me the league. That trade right there, specifically. But anyway, I digress
Yeah.
and hold grudges.
It's gonna be like that for a long time.
I know, but he is to me. I know Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, 1 and 2 through 17 weeks. Even if you go 16, you know, it. I don't know who was the running back 2 through 16 weeks. I believe. Oh, it was Dalvin Cook. So I think if you go through 17 weeks and you show it, Dalvin Cook is currently the RB3, but I think you can make an argument for him being RB1 overall this year because of the fact that he missed 2 games. I mean, he was 16 points off Alvin Kamara, and he missed 2 games. Now, Kamara missed 1 game too, but I think Dalvin Cook probably would have finished RB1 if he played in those 2 games.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Dalvin Cook was the RB1 this year. It would have been close with him and Kamara. You know, probably a single-digit point difference between those 2 guys. But either way, Dalvin Cook had a phenomenal year.
Agreed. Let's move on to the wide receiver of the year, and it belongs to Davante Adams. Now, I don't want to blow or toot our own horn, but I'm going to. Did we not say that Adams would be... We ranked Michael Thomas 1 because you got to play the game. But
which I wish we didn't do.
Did we not tell you that Adams might be the wide receiver 1 overall?
Yeah, it annoys me because we did rank Michael Thomas 1 ahead of him, but like
we were saying
when people asked
season,
me who I thought was going to finish as the wide receiver 1, I would say
Davante
Davante Adams. Like I tweeted in the beginning of the year, somebody said like put your QB1, your RB1, your tight end 1, and your wide receiver 1, and my wide receiver 1 was Davante Adams.
I did the same thing. I wish I had the energy to go back and find the tweet.
I know. I don't have the energy to do that either. But either way, we both loved Davante Adams this year. A lot of people did, though. And, man, he even blew my expectations. I think an honorable mention for wide receiver of the year would be Stephon Diggs from where you drafted him. And he had a fantastic year.
And Tyreek Hill, but Tyreek Hill too. 50-point game, too.
Yeah, and you kind of, you know, he gave you what you expected
wanted,
almost. Yeah. With Diggs, I think he kind of gave you much more than that, and I think normally I would give it to Diggs, but Adams was so freaking good.
I'm going to sit here and swipe until I find it.
Okay. Davante Adams was so freaking good that, like, you have to give him the award. Like, I was going to make an argument for Diggs, and I looked at his numbers, and I'm like, you have to give him the award.
And he missed 2 games.
He missed 2 games, and he had 18 touchdown receptions. 18 touchdowns in 14 games. That is unheard of. That's ridiculous. He had 115 catches in 14 games for 1,300 yards. How many fantasy points did he finish with? Like, it was like 300? 300 fantasy points in 14 games. That is insane. Like, he might get drafted in like the top 5 next year.
Yeah,
like, remember how
probably.
people would do that with Michael
like
Thomas?
I don't like that.
I don't like that either, unfortunately. For the same reasons.
It was funny
like
because
Thomas, but
last year I was sitting there looking at Michael Thomas's numbers: 300 fantasy points through 16 games, 18 fantasy points per game. And I was like, my God, that is very good. And it was consistent, too. It wasn't like he was having, like, monster.
He had very consistent.
He was very, very consistent. So I was like, wow, that cannot be topped. And then Davante Adams scored 300 fantasy points in 14 games and had 21.5 points per game.
Ridiculous, man.
So he's just absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
And you kind of expected it because of the target share. Like, as soon as the Green Bay Packers did absolutely
didn't
nothing
draft
in the
receiver,
offseason,
Devin Funchess opted out. I tweeted a joke before the season started. I was like, Davante Adams is going to get 500 targets this year. And then I was like, halfway through the season, I'm like, well, it was kind of a joke because he literally got 149 targets through 14 games. Which is ridiculous.
Right.
If he played a full 16, he probably would have had something like
240, 340, 350. What are we talking about? Oh, you're talking
targets.
about stats. I was talking about yardage.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
fantasy points.
Fantasy points.
Yeah, I think if he played a full 16, he probably would have had like 170 something targets, which is ridiculous, or maybe even 180 targets, which is ridiculous. And he was efficient though too. He had a 77% catch percentage this year, which is by far his career high. His previous career high was 65%. I would like to know what that compares to the rest of the league. Well, that too. What drugs is he on? But yeah, Devontae Adams was absolutely ridiculous. I can see you're still looking for that tweet.
Yeah, it's never gonna happen. I also just passed the first game of the season, and
it was
Melvin Gordon had like 25 points, and I was playing him, and I was like, my season's over. Little did I know, my season was over.
I'm pretty sure it was in August. You might have done it as a tweet reply and not an actual tweet.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm done.
I can look at mine though.
That's all right.
While you talk.
That's all right. Yeah, I don't really have any much more to say about Devontae Adams other than if you drafted him, you got a gem. Now, was he a second round pick?
He was like the end of the second. I mean, sorry, end of the first, early second.
The worst part about this whole thing too for me is that in our home league we were doing the draft, and I had worked through several scenarios because the theme or the constant reality for a lot of people, which it worked if you did it, was to draft running backs and a lot of them early. And so I usually what ends up happening a lot of times, because I don't subscribe to a particular notion. If there happens to be 2 wide receivers in the first 2 rounds that are good, I take them. 2 running backs that are good, I take them. A wide receiver or running back doesn't really matter as long as I had 2 talented guys. You can make Rick drafted Travis Kelce back in his second round. He traded him away for Joe Mixon.
Before season started.
Now, if you go back and you put the before 2020 glasses on, that's a good trade. Because you got a running back out of it, but you can always trade out a guy. So I don't really subscribe to a particular narrative. But I will say I was thinking about drafting Devontae Adams and chose not to because of the fact that I needed to draft running backs early.
So
Elvis.
If you can see, I don't think it's gonna.
It's not gonna pop up.
Yeah, whatever.
No.
I tweeted Kyler Murray as my QB1.
Yeah.
Hit. McCaffrey as my running back run. Well, we're not going to talk about that. He got injured. Devontae Adams was my wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
Hit. And then I had Kelce as my tight end 1.
Who's your QB1?
Or Kittle, sorry.
Kyler. Through 16 you were wrong. Mine was Josh Allen. I wish I could find that freaking tweet. When was it? What was the date on that?
It was
stamp,
early August.
I retweeted yours.
August 11th. You retweeted mine?
Yeah, dude.
No, you didn't.
It was August 11th.
You liked it, though.
I didn't retweet it.
No, you didn't retweet it.
Frick me.
You liked it.
I didn't like it.
August 11th. Well, you look for that, though.
I might have.
Do you want to move on to the next guy? Unless you already did, and I just wasn't paying attention.
There we go. Got it. Found it. I just didn't retweet yours. I retweeted his.
Oh, you got 3 of yours is good too.
Josh Allen, Devontae Adams, Travis Kelce, and then Saquon. Freaking running backs, man. This year they suck. Dude. I don't know anybody would have predicted Alvin Kamara though. Maybe somebody did. What was the guy who we retweeted it? He didn't even do his own.
No.
Yo, this guy in the comments. I'm not gonna name him, but Matt Ryan, Nick Chubb, Devontae Adams.
You said Devontae Adams.
It's easy for Devontae Adams and Travis Kelce. That was like a consensus.
Yeah.
Julio Jones and George Kittle. This guy said. Okay, I'm not gonna.
Don't. Yeah, waste our time doing that.
Anyway, should we just skip tight end of the year or?
No.
It belongs to
easy one though.
Darren Waller. No.
TJ Hawkins.
Cue the moment where what's his name runs on stage and steals the mic from Taylor Swift. Was that Kanye West?
Oh God. Yeah.
Travis Kelce drunk runs on stage. The freak you talking about, Darren Waller?
Yeah, Travis Kelce is the obvious choice. He was the wide receiver 3 if he would play wide receiver. I mean, that is ridiculous. And everybody thought he couldn't be better than what he already was, and he did exactly that. He was better. I drafted him. We'll probably never get over the fact that I traded him before the season started.
No.
But yeah, no, Travis Kelce was phenomenal. Really not too much to say about it. Like, if you drafted him, borderline, I even said, we were talking about fantasy MVP, and the first name I brought up to Morgan was Travis Kelce. Like, he was that good. Yeah. Just a phenomenal season for him. Is he going to do it again, though?
No, not for a second. All right, ready? Last 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 years. Last 6 years of tight end finishes. Rob Gronkowski, tight end 1, 219 fantasy points, 14 points per game. 2016, tight end 1, Travis Kelce, 180 fantasy points, 11 points per game.
Oh my gosh.
2017, Gronk, 14 points per game, 192. 2018, Travis Kelce, 243, 15 points a game. Probably on par with 2020. Closest one. Travis Kelce last year, 205, 16 games, 12.9 fantasy points per game. And then 2020, he averaged 17 points per game. So in 2018 was the closest, 15 points per game. He smashed it by 2 fantasy points. He was the wide receiver 4.
Is that the best year a tight end has ever had in fantasy football?
I'm going to say no.
Because
Maybe
Gronk,
yes.
I think, had the best one in 2016, was it?
Yeah, something like that.
Or 2017?
Maybe it was 2015. I don't know. Continue, though.
But yeah, I mean, that's just how good Travis Kelce was, because we're trying to figure out right now he might have had. He at least had the best year a tight end has had for the last 5 years.
Best part is, didn't play in all 15. He missed the last one because they benched everyone. So if you give him the 17.5 extra fantasy points, he finished with 277, which puts them at he's wide receiver 3 through 17 weeks. So that's crazy. I mean,
absolutely ridiculous, unheard of stuff. Now the problem is he's going to get drafted. He is going to get drafted in the first round.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is something that I'm like, oh boy, I don't want to do it.
Right.
I don't want to draft him in the first round. Did our camera just die?
No, it's fine. It just almost fell over.
Okay, all right.
Continue.
But yeah, he's gonna get drafted in the first round, probably even top 5.
Yeah.
Did you see? I'm not gonna name a name, but there is someone on Twitter that I follow that has him ranked as the 101 in redraft. I love the guy, and he's a very nice person, and I like his fantasy analyst. But man, can't disagree more. I get his line of thinking though, but don't take it.
He's probably standing in line somewhere in California in a pot shop. To be honest with you, I don't even know who it is, so I don't want to cast obscursions. But I don't even know what word I'm looking for. But
look, Kelce,
Kelsey's ridiculous. I don't think there's much we need to say more.
He is. Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So he is the tight end of the year. I wish we could sit here and talk about him more, but there's just nothing else to say.
He's just ridiculous.
So I wanted to do another award, but we didn't add it in here. It was Breakout of the Year. Maybe next year. But if you had to choose one, probably James Robinson.
Yeah, James Robinson would probably be a Breakout of the Year for sure.
Yeah.
I think I could quickly look. David Montgomery.
RB4 through 17 weeks. Do you know how happy that makes me? I carried the crown for him not being
Calvin Ridley,
a top 5, maybe, but that was very consensus.
DK Metcalf.
That was not consensus actually. Metcalf is very good. Yeah, I would
McLaurin
probably
had
say
a
Robinson.
great breakout for the last game or two.
Mm-hmm.
He was wide receiver 9. But yeah, James Robinson's probably the guy.
But that'll lead us into our bust of the year.
Yeah.
At the tight end position. Wow. Not the tight end position. The camera is dead now, by the way.
Okay.
So if you're watching on YouTube, you're just seeing the logo now. So the bust of the year is at the running back position, and there's some honorable mentions. Miles Sanders. Ezekiel Elliott. Which not all on him. You know, it's funny because I said to somebody the other day, just on the Zeke point for a second. I said to somebody that Zeke was going to be good next year, and that I'm excited that he's going to be a second round pick so I can draft him. Yeah. And they were like, "You're going to draft Zeke," and I'm like, how many people hate Zeke right now because Dak was?
Yeah, he might fall to the third round.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I hate drafting guys in the third round because they suck, but I'm pumped.
He might not fall to third. Actually, I don't know. It depends how the offseason plays.
But if Dak stays with Dallas because he hasn't signed his contract.
Are you not scared about Tony Pollard at all?
I'm not scared about Tony Pollard yet.
Okay,
he's good. I like him, and I actually think that at some point this is going to be like a Todd Gurley, we're going to trade him away or cut him situation.
Yeah, but
Zeke is still Zeke, and he was still getting the workload. So it's not like they're just going to change their mind and switch to Pollard. They just paid Zeke a very, very large amount of money, and they did the same thing to Gurley. But Zeke has no I don't look at Zeke and go Gurley. He has knee problems, and he really did look bad. Zeke looked bad because the whole offense was predicated on him, and
Zeke does have a lot of history on his legs, though.
That's true.
He's been waiting. I've been
waiting
for 6 years.
I've been waiting. Every time he gets hit, they go for his legs because he's
yeah. How
he's
old
big
is
up
he?
top.
26 too now.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, he's starting to get up there.
I'll talk about
For
it more
running
as the
back, at
offseason
least.
goes along, but I'm less scared of drafting Zeke than most people would think.
Yeah, no, I agree with you though. I would take Zeke, but
Like everyone's going to be down on him, and it's a perfect year to swing in and like, don't buy him in Dynasty. But
yeah, I got you. I get what you're saying.
But anyway, the bust of the year, you could say Zeke, you could say Miles Sanders. I would say it's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And it's because coming into the last 3 weeks of analysis for fantasy football, I was looking at Miles Sanders as this guy who was going to be a breakout top 5 running back. And that was consensus. And then he had his hamstring injury. And he kept, he went... Like its stock was rising. If you go to Fantasy Football Calculator, you can see the stock rising.
Yes,
and it shows you the charts from as the months go along. And so what I saw, bless you, what I saw from Sanders was that it went up, and he got all the way up to like a top 7 running back pick or something like that. And then
for Clyde, you mean?
No, for Miles Sanders.
Oh, okay.
And then I'm prefacing things. And then he had his hamstring injury, and so he dropped down a little bit. And then as soon as we found out, and the opt-out happened before that, but as soon as the opt-out happened for Damian Williams, Clyde's stock went up. And I remember a week after the hamstring injury for Sanders, a week before the season started, Clyde started getting top 5 talk.
Yep.
He was getting drafted in mock drafts, I'm not lying, with standard industry people in the top 5. Some not 4, some mock drafts I did in industry. He was going 3rd or even the 101.
I saw him. The highest he went for me that I saw was the 103, and that was like a week before the season started. It was Clyde, Barkley, and then I mean not Clyde. It was McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and that's when I was like, okay, because we were high on Clyde in the offseason, especially when he was a 3rd round pick. Yeah. And then the hype for him got insane, and neither of us drafted him in like any leagues. And there was a reason for that because he just kept going up and up and up and up and up. And I think even I think once he got to like 12 or 13, I like stopped ranking him higher. I was like, all right, that's enough. But people kept going and like had him in the top 5. And I still like Clyde. And like when he was playing the first 7 weeks of the season, this is half PPR, 19, 10, 15, 10, 9, 18, 12. That's solid. Like low end RB1, high end RB2, right?
I can look it up. What was that through how many weeks?
Week 1 through week 7. Where was he ranked?
In half PPR, he was the my tight ends.
I
was like, wow, those are names I know.
Running back 9.
So I mean, that is kind of where we thought he would be.
Yeah.
Just in terms of like, I saw Damian Williams. He was kind of a surprising running back to take in the first round. I thought the opportunity would be there. I think he is a top 12 running back when Le'Veon Bell's not ruining him. And I think when he doesn't have a secondary guy there, which he's going to next year in Damian Williams, he is one of those guys that can take over and be a really good running back, as you saw through the first 7-8 weeks of the season. But the big thing for Clyde is that I felt like after the top 10, it was too much for Clyde. And I felt like even though people were excited, it was like you're overplaying your hand in fantasy football when you start drafting guys. You start passing up on sure things like sure things like Alvin Kamara and Dalvin Cook. Like there were people in the fantasy football community passing up on the RB1 and the RB2 in fantasy football, and you knew they were going to be top 5. You knew it for somebody who they were unsure that it was going to be in the top 5 because of hype. So I think for me, we're going to do a whole show on Thursday specifically related to top 5 things we learned from 2020.
Yep.
But I think maybe one of the things that you can put on that show is don't overhype guys. No matter how much you love them, no matter how much you love the offense, no matter how much you love situations, like you're going to love a guy and you need to dial it back a little bit. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think for me, Clyde was he was expected to be a top 6, top 7 running back, even for us. There was some expectation there for that.
Yep.
And he just wasn't that. I think he ended as the RB19.
19, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously you can't anticipate, like with Zeke. If you put Zeke on this, you can't anticipate Zeke and his Dak Prescott injury, right? And how much that affected him. You couldn't anticipate Miles Sanders' injuries and other problems that he had. And you couldn't anticipate Clyde Edwards-Helaire not losing work to Le'Veon Bell, but losing snaps. And I think that's what people...
Yes. And
it was like a 50-50 split when Le'Veon Bell got in. No matter... they didn't give Le'Veon Bell much work in terms of
No, but he got
catches and rushes, but it was the snap percentage that dropped for Clyde.
right, exactly. And that's why I like him next year, because I think even if Damian Williams is there, as long as Bell is not there, Damian Williams will just play that Darrell Williams, the backup running back before. Before they signed Bell. Yeah, the other Williams. Whoever the backup running back was for the Chiefs through the first few weeks of the season, Darrell Williams. I think he's going to play that role more than the Le'Veon Bell role. And I think Clyde will hopefully get a healthy 70-75% snap percentage.
Okay.
And he's going to do what he did through the first 7 weeks, and that's the RB9. And people are going to draft him because he had such a disappointing year.
People are going to draft.
People are going to draft Cam Akers over
That's
him.
what I was going to say. Blockheads in fantasy football are going to draft Cam Akers over Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
I don't know about. Well,
I won't be doing that.
I know you won't, and I won't either. But I understand why people would do that.
You sure as hell going to
I
trust?
do. I really do.
You're going to trust the Los Angeles Rams next year? Their hit or miss offense on a year-to-year basis.
Well, see, I want to see how the offseason plays out too with the Rams.
I don't know. I do like how the Rams utilize running backs and stuff like that. But we'll talk about Cam Akers as the season goes on.
Yeah,
I haven't decided. Everyone thinks I'm going to change my mind. I really haven't decided what I think on Cam Akers.
Right.
But anyway.
But my point is, though, people are going to draft a lot of players over Clyde. He's going to fall to the third, maybe even the early fourth round.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a great value pick.
Yeah, agreed. And then the fantasy MVP goes to Alvin Kamara. Now, this for me and Rick was
It's tough. It was
a tough one because I love Dalvin Cook with all my heart and soul, and I just typed in
Devontae Adams too.
It was a tough decision. Now, the reason why Alvin Kamara gets this award is not because of consistency. Definitely not because of that. In half PPR, he had because a lot of people there's notions that he had a really bad stretch in the middle of the season. He had 21, 33, 38, 19, 15, 18, 20, and then 13 through the first 9 weeks of the season. And then from week 10 on, he had 31, 10, and 5, so 2 tough games against Atlanta and Denver. And then he had 16, 18, 16, and 54. If you had him in the fantasy playoffs and you got 18, 16, and 54.
So, can I just say this, though?
Yeah.
The games that bad stretch there, the 10 and 5.
Yeah.
The first game that Taysom Hill started was the game against Atlanta in week 11 because he played Atlanta twice. He had 3 starts. I think he played against Philly too. I'm not 100% sure. But pretty much Alvin Kamara with Breeze, his floor was 16 points. His floor with Taysom Hill was 5. What does that tell you about next year?
I'm scared.
I'm not drafting him. If Breeze retires and Kamara's there at the 104,
we got an early bust candidate. Unless they do something else at quarterback.
Like Jameis Winston.
Yeah. It astounds me that they're even thinking about starting Taysom Hill.
Yeah. It's because that's Sean Payton's guy.
When the Chicago Bears were almost in the game this Sunday, almost, they're hanging in there, and then they threw Taysom Hill out for one pass. He freaking got strip sacked.
It's no one's gonna get this, but it's a Lawrence guy is Bill Belichick's guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And Taysom Hill is
he's playing him even though he blows on defense.
You're gonna put your starting quarterback. Sean Payton is smarter than this. I really do think so.
But it's the guy he's trained. It's his guy. I think that's why Winston is there.
And he's we won games. I'm like, yeah, you won against Atlanta, Denver, and Atlanta. Great job, Taysom.
Exactly, yeah.
But anyway, so he is the fantasy MVP, and the reason why is the playoff performances, the fact that Rick said his floor was 16 points in half PPR, and then obviously if
he won you
I know of one league that people have told me of that. Oh, you know one too?
I was the one.
Oh,
unfortunately.
That's 2. I forgot about you too. That Alvin Kamara, you had Alvin Kamara and you lost your fantasy championship. Yeah. I would say that it's a 99% chance.
Of course, I'm in the 1%. Of course,
like that you lost your fantasy championship. 1% chance that you lost your fantasy championship with Alvin Kamara. 99% chance you won. That is it was what was that? Thursday night game too? Or Friday because it was
Friday,
Christmas?
Yeah. I can't go back and look.
he dropped 54, and almost everyone was like, "It's over." Like if you're in your fantasy matchup and you score 54 points in one game, it's going to be hard to overcome. I mean, I faced Tyreek Hill earlier this year when he had 52, so it's not easy to like.
Right. I'm trying to look back at what my team was. It's because it was a super flex league, so that means 2 quarterbacks. I had Matthew Stafford as my second quarterback.
You start playing with the rules a little bit.
And he got injured in the first play of the game and left, so he had 0 points. So it kind of evened out. And then I think he also had, I want to say, I can't pull it. Oh, I can pull it up. He had Patrick Mahomes as well, who lit it up, Jonathan Taylor. Yeah. Oh, and he had Stephon Diggs, who scored 41 points. So my 50-something from Kamara was washed out from the 41 from Diggs.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Diggs is ridiculous.
Which is another reason why I said Diggs could also be MVP.
But yeah, I think when you get to the fantasy championship and you get 54 points from your running back that you drafted 6 or 7 because all these people were drafting Clyde number 5, is just asinine. It's insane. And no one drops that many. Like I think he broke a record for rushing touchdowns. Did he break the record?
Alvin Kamara?
Yeah. Rushing touchdowns.
Oh, in a game? Yeah. I think he tied the record.
Oh, okay.
He tied the record.
But it was insane what Kamara did, and that essentially won you a fantasy championship if you had him. It was pretty close, unless you had a weird situation where you're facing Diggs. But it's that. The reason why he's there is because of the 54 points. Now, if you take out that 50-point game and play it fair, you know what I mean? Let's just say you take out the 50-point game that he had and then you give him the average. You know, he doesn't finish as the running back 1. He's like running back 4, right around where Monty... No, actually, never mind. He's not around running back 4. He's like running back 3.
Yeah.
So I think that game, like even if we go back to week 15 and rewind before the fantasy championship, Alvin Kamara was running back 2 through the 14 weeks. So it was definitely an insane season for Kamara. He's a guy that I did toil with a little bit, thinking that he might be RB1, but didn't really want to go out on a limb because I didn't really trust it.
Yeah.
But he is, through 17 weeks, he is the RB1.
Wow. Ridiculous, man.
After 54 points. Took a 54
Right,
points.
yeah. But ridiculous, yeah. I mean, that's the biggest thing of why he's the MVP was that game. Because he did win you your league, most likely. Unless you're me.
Yeah, unless you're Rick. That'll do it. What an interesting show. Thank you for checking this out. Actually, I wish I could go back, but you know what? We didn't do the intro sequence. Follow us, subscribe to us, do all that good stuff. You know what to do. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We'll talk to you tomorrow, Fantasy Champs. Or Thursday, I mean.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube, and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.